back, everyone, to the Fight Against Boredom, Starborne's Players Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Fecca.
And I'm Branksbro. Today we have somebody with us who I've associated with Starborne since I've started playing. Somebody who has been not affiliated with any alliance in specific and likes to play with everybody from the community and shares experience. Roedhip, welcome.
Hey there.
So tell us, when did you start playing, and give us a run through of some of your most memorable moments in the game?
Okay, so back in Alpha 8, Server 3, that was my first server. And I mean, that was actually, I had quite an experience that first server too, because there were massive inactivity issues back in Alpha 8.
Oh, yeah.
And I, on my first server, ended up leading a coalition of 60 people. We came third with about 5 active players at the end. But yeah, since then I've played in Alpha 9. I was on Server 1 and Server 2. Very public on Server 1. Managed to get the win on that after beating the third place coalition as a solo player in one battle, dealing so many casualties to their gunships that I was immediately catapulted and accepted into the winning coalition. But then after Server 2 of Alpha 9, I kind of got tired of it and I was working, so I wanted to have some time off. Came back for Beta. And I've now, my alliance, not a great name for an alliance, but anyway, my alliance on Server 5, Yumiho, have secured the first triple victory ever on Starborne.
Damn.
Ah.
See, pull it up. Is it locked in now, the triple victory?
Yeah, that's locked in. We've had it confirmed. Yeah, we've done it.
That's a milestone. Congratulations for that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and with the new rewards, have you guys have confirmation that you might even get like the ×3 amount of platinum and blueprints and stuff like that?
We've not had confirmation, just because I don't think anyone's received any of the rewards yet from any of the beta servers. But if we don't get triple rewards, I will find and beat up Exorbitant.
Heard it here first. Manslaughter accounts.
I mean, you deserve it. Like, doing all that work together to get the triple victory. If nobody's gonna get the rewards for the first place in 2 of them, like, it doesn't make sense. Like,
Yeah. And like all our guys put in quite a lot of work. Like, it wasn't the most active of servers, but our alliance in particular, we were almost all still online, still coordinating, still like taking down targets to the last day.
What server did you say this was on again?
Server 5.
Server 5?
Yeah, just finished this week.
Right. Did you actually run into too many other bigger groups, or were there any veterans that came in, or was it mostly a lot more newer guys?
So most of the top alliances had somewhere between none and 2 veterans. My alliance included, we only had 2 vets. Everyone else started on beta.
Huh.
Which is part of, I think, like a lot of the fun of it did come from that. There were so many new players, even in my own alliance, that me and Jack and a few of the people who just learned really quickly were teaching everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We did have some big wars. We took down the rank 4 alliance, we took down the rank 3 alliance, and most of the other top alliances we had deals with where they would let us win.
Wow. So 15 guys, and you managed to get all 3.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I think I alone had 5 mechanisms at the end of it, because we did like all of the strategic victory in a massive rush in the last couple of weeks.
I can't imagine holding that many points. You get attacked on one of them, you start moving, and then they're like, haha, did you bait it? And then they attack you on another one. It's like, okay.
Oh yeah, I'll correct myself. 4. A random player took out one of my stations a couple days before the end, and I couldn't do anything about it.
Because, see, I don't really like holding GTs or mechanisms because it kind of locks me into having to focus so much on that one point. I like to be more mobile, I guess, or have options.
Yeah, I mean,
like holding 5. God, no.
It was at that point though. It was fortunate because like we'd basically won the server at that point. We'd finished our war with the rank 3 alliance. we had our non-aggression pacts with the other top alliances, and everyone below that was, they were either potatoes and like, someone would attack us and I'd be like, oh, you have a spare hammer left over, don't you? Can you just wipe them out quickly? Or it'd be like they'd already left, because a lot of the smaller alliances had left by the end.
And of those 15 people, so 14 that played with you, how many of those were new players?
13 of them started on beta. Quite a few of them had tested things out on server 1, then come over to server 5.
They were this hungry. Or was it work for you to get them convinced or to stay engaged? Or did it come naturally?
I was surprised at how eager so many of them were. Like, a lot of the joy of the leadership in this alliance. I wasn't the only leader. There was also Jackish, who's in the chat just now, and Versipolis leading with me. But a lot of the joy of the leadership was realizing just how eager so many of the players were. Like, there'd be one player that he's not said much, and I'm not quite sure. But then we announce we need more Gatos corvettes to the Alliance station. He's like, "Oh, I can get 1,000 there today."
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
So, do you think there's anything particularly that you think you did well, and you could give like advice to other people that are trying this kind of stuff, or do you just think you got really, really lucky with your guys, or what do you think? So,
I think a couple things that I've taken away from this. The first is our branding as an alliance was exceptional. And a lot of that actually comes down to Jack, because I only joined the alliance in like week 3, but right from the start, the top players in our alliance were active on global, answering people's questions, private messaging people who wanted more tips. So like, we were on the alliance as on the server as people who were friendly and people who were helping. Right. Which meant like there was one attempt to build a coalition against us, but just no one committed to it. And I think that came down a lot to like, we were friendly and that paid off in the end. We didn't have to fight everyone. And then the second thing is, just as a leader, one of the best things you can do is have a goal everyone in the alliance can work towards, and like always have something that they can look at and be like, oh, if I want to help the alliance more, if I want to engage in the alliance, here's what I do. Right. And that's really what took a lot of our players from not having said that much to engaging with that, and then being like, yes, I'll come on a FAB, I'll take part in this war, and then like really being active from there on.
Right, and I really like that, because I know a lot of people, we mentioned, we almost joke that, you're like a DM for Dungeons & Dragons or something, right? You're just coming up with content, like stay involved, like stay going, even if it's not something huge, like just coming up with some little goal or doing a little piece or something. So that's cool that you also are saying like that's effective on your end as well, right? Because we definitely do that. Now, for as far as like, since you said you didn't get into week 3, did you guys all end up in the same sector, or did you guys actually grab people from different sectors and maybe that helped with getting multiple missions?
Yeah, part of how we ended up so strong is Jack did some spectacular work with recruitment, particularly near lockdown when we had a few players drop out and needed to replace them. So like, we didn't have all the good players on the server, but like the strong position we had early on, and additionally the sort of branding early on, meant that we were grabbing, like, they were in Vulpecula and Vulpecula and Fornax. I started in Ares, so that's almost the opposite side of the map. We had another guy who was also directly opposite side of the map, and this was really late on. He had like 8 stations on that side of the map. And from the opposite side of the map, he built half of our third FOB.
Oh, wow.
So
did you have to like protect him or something? Like, hey, if I build the FOB, he needs to help defend me or something, right?
We almost started a war to defend him, but fortunately, our opponents in that war sort of just backed down and were like, "No, we don't want to get into this."
It's really interesting. I wonder to see if this will happen again in the future. Now that people kind of know it's like I probably didn't even think it was a possibility with only 15 guys. I mean, I joked about it, or like I think people kept saying, "Oh, we should go for 3," but I'm like, dude, there's only 15 people. So I wonder if you've maybe opened up Pandora's box and maybe people don't want to do as many politics anymore. Because like I could just get all of these, especially with wins, right? With like doing the rewards for winning. Oh well, I mean, I could ally with you, or I could just have this extra plat and blueprints for myself.
I mean, I hope so. Because even if it doesn't come down to triple victories, like, it really surprised me looking at a lot of other servers how you'd see an alliance with like 30 mechanisms that isn't on either of the other leaderboards. Like, there's another alliance who were very smart in their political game. They were only like rank 8 in influence, but with some good politics involving my alliance, they've managed to get 2 of the second places, just because, you know, we agreed to give them a Dyson from someone we'd beaten up as part of some complex things. Though also, as Jack is mentioning in the chat there, our triple victory did require a lot of political work.
Oh yeah,
so,
I can only imagine. It would have to, right?
Yeah, because, you know, it does encourage aggressiveness if people are like, oh, we could get 3, but you have to be very careful in your aggressiveness. We had a small fight with the rank 2 alliance at one point, but for most of the server, we were like, no, we know these guys aren't going to attack us, so we can focus on taking out the person who's ahead of us on claim.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess the branding portion that Roedhip talked about is a strat that outperformed for us. Yeah, and that's just huge, man. I think like the politics you'd have to pull off. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Even on like if someone would say like a quote like more dead server, like I mean, there's still people playing. I think people underestimate, like you're saying, how good brand new players can be if you give them a little guidance in the right direction. But yeah. It's just hands off to you guys, you and I guess Jackish, and of course all the other guys that came together to make that happen. Because 3 wins, man, all 3. 15 guys. Oh man.
I think that means that me and the other 14 guys all have more server wins than anyone else so far. Like, Fecky, you don't have 3 server wins, do you?
Oh man, yeah. Well, I mean, this is actually after server 1. I'm finally at 3 now. So that was we're tied in one game now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Jackie just said something about it brought up honor. We should talk about honor.
That's something Jackish and I are very big on, never breaking our word as diplomacy. That's something I think we both just decided on as soon as we started playing, because like we know people remember previous servers.
Yes.
If you break a deal on one, then people will know in future servers, and that's kind of helped. And then, I mean, another thing he's mentioning is like Jackish and I on that server, the first one I played, where I was the 3rd place coalition, the person who wiped out my armada and who took the victory, outmaneuvered us, all of that, was Jack's coalition, and I think it was Jack's hammer who killed mine. And yeah, but because we both had that attitude of, we're not gonna break deals. We'll be polite, even if we're going to go to war with someone. Like that is part of how our alliance, this server, came together. So like previous servers, being kind and sticking to the deals is already paying off in some ways, and I think it just continues to pay off if you don't go back on deals you make in this game as a leader.
I love that point too, and I think we've hit on that like so many times where it really does add up. And like it's crazy that you guys are even able to do that, because it's considered like a long play, right? Like you said, you want to be honest in this server, so next server you have a better chance of winning. But like you guys still won all 3 on the same server, so that's not even like holding your deals. You wouldn't have had to if that's like your one goal. But so you had that in mind, still thinking not only is this the end goal, but like we also want to do this on future servers. So that's what makes a really strong alliance, a really strong group, in my opinion. If you can hold your word, and that's people we look for when we're looking for allies, right? How many times that guy crossed someone? And honestly, most of the time it's more than once. I might not ally with you, right? You can even be the better deal, but it's like, you don't trust him. So.
I think one should note also that it's not always easy to stick to a deal that you might have made. Like you make a deal early on in a server, and then stuff just develops in a different direction than you thought it would, or a lot of people are telling you, like, this isn't fun, or whatever, just people pestering about, like, we shouldn't stick with this deal. But I always hold that if I give somebody my word and say I'll do the thing, then I will do that thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, it's in the future, people, as you said, would remember if you've broken a deal. And likewise, they will remember if you've honored the deal, even if it was hard or didn't turn out the way you'd hoped.
Yeah.
You can they can count on you. You can count on the people that act the same way.
There's only two things that would make me betray the alliance that I've joined, and one of them is if I make a deal in the alliance's name and I have the authority to do that, and then the alliance backs down. Like, I'll stick to my word over the alliance.
Well,
That's how far I'm willing to take it.
Right, but that's interesting too, because I mean, it's really getting your whole alliance. So, like, when you go out to do political chats, I'm sure you guys have had to do this, and a lot of people are doing it. But, like, it's very hard to say that you're going to do something for sure, and it's not like me trying to be schemy, but it's like I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm not agreeing that, like, you know, we can do anything for you. I'm trying to see where your head's at. I need to take whatever you're willing to give me. I need to run it back to the alliance, because you want to make sure they're on the same page. Right? You don't want to end up in that position where you've agreed to something, but your alliance hates it, and now you're backtracking and you're doing all kinds of other stuff. So yeah, there's definitely like this political dance you have to end up doing whenever you're trying to talk politics stuff, and it can go really well, really bad. It
does make diplomacy take so long. Like, I had one particular deal which I think is my best deal I've ever negotiated, but it took like 10 hours or more just for that one deal to get negotiated, because there were two other parties involved, and one of them really, really wanted me to say, we'll be proper allies, you'll help us get one of the victories. And I just had to keep avoiding the question, or sometimes just flat out be like, no, we can't agree to that right now.
Right.
Like, it takes work.
It's like that. Yeah, I remember, I think we had, like, I had to go to something with my wife one night, like some board game night, and like the whole day I'm like working on this deal in A8 to get someone in our coalition. And I've been like on my phone the whole time, like we're playing like board game night, like I'm playing whatever board game, and we're sitting there, and then all of a sudden the guy finally gives me the deal I want. I'm like, yes, and I'm like, oh no, and I look up and I realize like no one has any idea what I'm doing, but it's like 10 hours like hardcore work because I have to politicking this out. Like, I'm playing a different game entirely because I'm just so invested in like how do I get this political deal the right way. So, it's so much.
It's I'm happy that I play with people that enjoy that kind of, I don't even want to call it gameplay, because but it is, right? It's in order to play the game, that politics stuff that happens outside of the game is part of it. It's like you can't get around it, really. I think you'd have to have a hardcore group of 15 or now 20 people that can just go at it against the entire server and somehow win. Otherwise, you're bound to have to deal with politics.
The politics and diplomacy I did on that server, like I can say that was more useful to my alliance than every station and every ship I built. Like that's how much this game is decided by politics and diplomacy.
It can be like that. And like I would even like to go like on the flip side, kind of like what Branks is kind of touching on, is like I'm truly only able to spend this much time on politics because I have someone like Branks that is literally like managing the entirety of actually doing stuff, right? It's like you go around and like you make all these deals, but if you can't actually make them happen, right? It's like I go talk to the guy, I'm like, oh, and he's asking, can I do this? And I have to turn to Branks. I'm like, Branks, are we even able to do this kind of stuff? And he's like, yeah, like looking at this, looking at the spy reports, looking at armies, looking at that kind of stuff. And that's a whole other side of it as well. So that's something that's worked unbelievably for us.
Oh yeah, never lead an alliance alone.
Yeah, trying to do both, man. Doing all this politics and doing all the other stuff, I couldn't even imagine. I would have gray hairs.
You have to have like a leadership structure in place. It's like you say, never do it alone. There's a couple of people involved. Like we delegate. Some people do well with spreadsheets or just tracking coordinates or spy reports. Others like talking to people about where to move troops, and it's all gets together. Like I don't think there's any single person in Gravity or FAB that is like the one person that made it all happen. It's all of them together.
I mean, it's a team game in the end. A big team.
A big team of 15 that takes all 3 victories. Yeah. So you've been teasing us for a couple of days, talking
Yeah.
about that you've got some XP generation method that's like completely dwarves all other means of acquiring
Yeah.
fleet experience. Can
So
you share
yeah.
with us?
So I'll sort of just go over what I understand of fleet experience. So, fleets, the fastest way to get experience through normal gameplay involves hitting players, hitting NPCs. You take losses, but your fleets gain experience, and that means that they're better than someone else's fleets, right?
Yeah.
And there's been different strategies to get experience without taking losses for quite a while. One that I've heard about very often is, you can build outposts, and particularly if you're MPL, you can do that a bit cheaper, but it's still like something that takes quite a bit of time, that takes up one of your industrial fleets, that's costing resources for the experiment, for Terran.
I didn't want to interrupt it. I was just for anyone watching.
But the strategy that I've come up with, and I'll find my gift now, it's using a different thing to previous strategies. It's using the experience you get for dropping probes and revealing missions. Because that experience is 5 for the probe you drop, and 5 for every level of every mission you reveal. And so I'll just post a wee GIF in here. And what this is showing is the donut hole, as people in my alliance have come to call it. I think Jack came up with the name, which is a hole in my scan area that you can fill with missions. You just do missions outside of it and they move inwards. You get a ton of missions in the same place. Then you reveal them all with one probe. And that can give you, I think the highest number I ever got was 310 experience.
Whoa.
And that's from a probe dropped next to my station. So that probe, the return flight was 2 minutes.
Wow. Now, and then so you would like intentionally not put probe duration on these, intentionally not do those missions. You could stack these for a while. What? It's every 24 hours. That's how long a base probe lasts. You could do this.
Well, you may notice in that GIF that the missions all disappear again.
Right.
Because an important note about how probes work is one player can only have one probe on a hex.
Yeah.
This is something I think I only discovered on server 5. And that means that if you send a probe somewhere, you can delete your own probes, essentially. And that hides the missions again. And if the missions are hidden again, then once your fleet returns that has 800 scan strength, like 6 radius, it can go again.
Oh,
Wait, let me get this straight. You could schedule a 1 scout fleet to put a probe on the same spot, like a second or two after the fleet that you're leveling has put the strong probe there. Just replace it and just go over and over and over again.
Yes. So I did this to get all of my fleets to maximum level. And yeah, it was taking around 1 hour per fleet. I was doing 2 fleets at a time with an extra 2 scout fleets supporting.
Oh my God.
Then at one point, Jack also came over because he was our recon hammer, and he wanted to get all of his recons to max. So he just brought over his recons, and he was running like 4 fleets gaining experience at once. Yeah, it was great.
Yo, this is amazing. This is good. Now I see how you guys won all 3 victories. Everywhere you go.
But it will still require you to convert the fleets then, so you would have to use command overhaul cards to keep the experience when converting fleet types.
Yeah, so it was easiest for Jackish because he was keeping his fleets as recons. But for me, I spent almost all of my free-to-play command... almost all of my free-to-play command cards went into changing fleets over. Like, I wasn't re-rolling extra challenges or anything like that, saving them all up for this, and then I dipped into a cache of 100 command cards I have from a previous server win. I used about 16 of them as well. It doesn't cost much to do this for all your fleets, and because there's so many free command cards, you can do it for a decent number for free.
Well, even switching, it only goes down to level 3, right? I mean, it's like,
Oh yeah. You
I mean,
can
you
do.
could still have all level 3 fleets even as a free player. That's huge,
Yeah.
right? And then just smash them into NPCs or do whatever you would normally do to get that last level.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
I mean, we used to do this. We used to sabotage missile batteries. Like somebody would set up, we'd call it the Fleet XP Academy, with a missile battery, and you use like 1 hex difference, and there was no defense there. You could just, because you could effectively get the XP for sabotage from the missile battery, even though it was already sabotaged. Just do that over and over again, and that was using scouts and recons. Now we're at scouts and recons again. Like it's the hidden class bonus that nobody knows about.
I mean,
there's always one. There's always one.
Okay, like I could see this becoming a thing.
Oh yeah, this is
some guy that doesn't know about this outside of your alliance is just like, oh, look at all those stacked missions, and starts running those missions. Everybody gets mad.
So I'll tell you a few things about how highly we value this. I mean, first off, if someone ran a mission in my donut hole and they were outside my alliance, I would bomb them. Like, no hesitation. That's worthy of a war.
All I did was do a mission. What's happening? I'm new to the game.
No missions for you.
But then also, right, so we're gonna go, a lot of the people from server 5, not just the winning alliance, we've picked up other people, are gonna go into server 16, and like, you know, Jack has sort of figured out these are some of the rules for the alliance, and I think either 1 or 2 of the rules, and there's only 6 of them, are just about the donut hole and making sure people treat it properly, because it's so important. And the last thing I'll say, which I just find hilarious, the only person who has ever messed up and taken a mission from the Alliance's donut hole is actually Jackish himself. Despite how highly he values it.
E2.
But you see, the shame you feel when you do something like that, that gives you the drive to make these rules, to make them clear and concise, so nobody fucks up the way you just did.
Yeah. That is the donut hole.
That's really big. Yeah. Going into beta, they nerfed XP generation for fleets quite heavily, and I think this will be the go-to for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, I think this is going to be... I think it's big enough that I don't know quite how it will ever be nerfed, because there's nothing in it that's a bug. It's not quite an exploit, and also it's any obvious tweaks you could make to the way probes work kind of ruin something else. But I do imagine at some point it might not last forever.
And you've talked to staff, right? Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
You talked to staff confirming that this is not considered an exploit.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously the staff could change their mind on it if they think, no, we want people to stop doing this. But, yeah, just to be clear to everyone, if you find something that you think is game-breaking or an exploit, contact staff, tell them about it so that it can be fixed. And if you know about an exploit that hasn't been fixed yet, you know, don't do it. Don't build 6 capital ship assemblies if you find a way to do that.
Yeah, that's a big no-no.
We have a saying, we're beta testers first. We used to say we're alpha testers first, right? Then players. And definitely, anytime you guys see an exploit or you feel like there's an exploit, please contact XO or Snuggums. And then it's also, you know, don't repeat it out loud. Don't say, as like, it's one thing to confirm with like one other person, but like oh, because it just becomes a big thing, and they'll fix it. They've been good about it, but
and it's part of the code of conduct, right? Don't share and explain exploits to others. Of course, if you're part of a super tester group or something, and you're trying to confirm how stuff works, exactly what's bugged, what the mechanics are involved, of course you're talking about it. But you're doing it in like back channels that are specifically made for that. But general chat or something like that, it's like, don't talk about it, please. There's another thing that you used to do for the community, Roedhip, and I remember that very fondly, and that's the political maps. I remember back from server 1, Alpha 9, you made a political map that showed on that old map where all the GTs were and the alliances that were holding them.
Yeah. So I think you have some copies that you can put into the map into the chat while I explain these. And I mean, first off, I can't take all the credit for the maps because it wasn't my idea to post like, oh, here's a map of what the map, here's a picture of what the map looks like. Other people have been doing it before me, but it was sort of like one person did it one server. I think Exorbitant might have done it for one server as well.
Yes,
I was doing it there for a bit as well. Yeah. I think
and then
maybe as well.
Yeah, and so I took some of the maps that people have been using for that, and then what I added to them was, I actually did it much neater than I remembered. There's a lot of squiggles, but not as many as I thought. Adding to the map, because in Alpha 9 it was all about GTs. The whole map was just 19 identical sectors, each with a Dyson and 10 Grand Terrestrials. And so I was like, well, people are fighting over these. That's the only thing you really want to see if you want a picture of what's happening on the server. And
exactly.
yeah, so I posted these every few days, somewhat inconsistently, with coloring for the different maps. And I think it was really, I think it was really great, the whole having this on the server. Like even I as the person who was regularly checking all the GTs, would go back, have a look, like, oh, what was it like a few weeks ago? And I'd get excited when I spotted each of the changes each time I made the map.
Yeah. And it provided narrative, like an easier way for people to track what's going on, the political situations, the fighting on the other side of the map and everything like that. And even though you might not have been involved in these wars directly, maybe you picked the team and it was like, oh yes, they gained one, or oh no, they lost like 5 all of a sudden. It's a narrative, and there's been a lot of talk about like how important that might be to keep people involved and interested in the game, which can be quite boring and cumbersome at times, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think something that's often said about past servers and said by veterans, as they're sort of talking about what makes the game great, is the stories that people have from servers. And so many of the vets love just trading stories about what happened, being like, oh, we were on this server together, what was it like from your side? And I think that these sorts of things, not just maps, but like these sorts of things, building that narrative for everyone on the server, I think that's something it's been great when it's been done, and I think there's a lot of potential for more of that than is happening at the moment.
Yeah, I kind of forgot how cool these were. I love these things, man. Like seeing just the 2 Branksbro posted, just like the first one where at the time we were this pink coalition, but then like you go to the second one, you can see like our expanse and our progress as we go up. And then Roedhip, as you're saying, these 2 over here is actually us picking you up, and so like these are yours too. So that's super cool.
I'm also loving as well. I didn't know that someone had continued and improved it for Alpha 9 Server 4. I'm loving that new version with no squiggly lines on it anymore.
Yeah, because so I was posting these for tournament, I think, because I don't remember the squiggly lines. I got a copy from someone, and like we were literally having a hard time because no one was posting them. And I was like, oh crap, like we used to use these to coordinate. Like someone would post them, we'd pull them into our Discord like an officer meeting, and we'd sit there and look at them, right? So I was like, oh crap. So yeah, I hadn't seen the ones. I didn't remember the squiggly line ones, but that's funny that I like that, because I just remember this newer updated version. But yeah, these are so cool. That's the one thing. It was a little like monotonous that it was like 19 identical sectors before. It was one victory type, and at the time it didn't seem that great, and we were kind of all pumped for this new like tiered system. But this map specifically was the one thing that was cool. Like you're like expanding, crawling. Oh, if we can get this one and this one, and you point them out, then like this. Yeah,
because there was only this one thing to fight over, it's easier to track it on a map, right? And there's some work being going on right now in the background, like trying to do something like this for the new map, but because there are 3 different things to fight over, it's a bit more complicated to making a map that's still clean and easy to read. And I think like the stuff I'm working on is trying to make 2 different maps, one which is just clear. You don't see GTs, mechanisms, just like where are people on the map, and then one version that's more symbols on it, more detailed, where you could really look at, okay, here are the GTs and who's holding which and the mechanisms and stuff like that. But I know of quite a few people who would spend a considerable amount of time just whenever a new map came out, just pick up a cup of coffee and just stare at it for a while.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I only really remembered today, and so I'll send a picture of it in just now, is a different type of map that was being used quite commonly before the GT map, and this was mostly used at the start of a server.
Yes.
And these ones, I reckon, are actually still doable now. The whole just have the influence leaderboard up and have where are the big alliances? Because this was also really helpful too. Like, I'd always check whenever someone updated this one, I'd be like, okay, where does it look like the rivals are? Where are the big coalitions forming? And it's much easier to read a map like this than to actually read the leaderboard.
Yeah, because the leaderboard, it gives you a name for the sector they're in or the group, but once it's painted on the map, you can relate to it better.
Yeah, and it's also just faster to read because as we were saying, like I think the real benefit of these maps is for the people who don't know how to become part of the server's story, the people who don't know how to like who aren't in one of the big alliances, who aren't hearing these discussions. Because like then I'd even check these sort of maps for a server that I'm not on, just because I'd be curious. You can just in a glance start to see how the story's developing.
Yeah.
Well, I like it even now kind of as a historical thing. Like, you can see some of these players like playing now, right? I would go check past ones. Like, I'm looking down now at like, I don't know, like you go down to like 15 or so. The rank 17 alliance was led by this guy, Captain Dice Bear. I didn't even realize that guy was leading an alliance at the time, you know? Like, that's like just that's super cool. The Wiser Kaiser, it's like guys that, you just check these from past servers, like whenever you get into a new server, just to see what alliances are around. Now there's like a little bit of a historical record. This is really cool. This map's like a little messed up though, because you took the picture right before we passed Singularity, so I do have a problem with it. But besides that, it's a pretty good map.
Let me just see if I have one from the next day. Oh no, that is actually the latest map of that type I have. It's the final version.
Oh no,
man, that's funny.
Yeah, we pride ourselves in the fact that we surpassed Singularity at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this little competition that Admiral would just jump into our voice channels every now and then and was like, yeah, I heard you guys are scheduling an AA. What's your numbers on the firepower and the hit point? Just give it to him. It's like, what? You're able to field stronger fleets than Singularity? As you can hear him, like, yeah, all right, he's a bit disappointed that he's no longer number one, but also happy that, like Snoogum's told us that at some point as well. Sorry. That as a developer, they used to be the best at the game, and at some point, other players overtook them, which was a pivotal moment for him. And I think for people that led the big-ticket alliances in the beginning of Starborne, might feel the same way. It's a bit sad that they're no longer number one, but at the same time, the people that they influenced, that they taught, that they played alongside, now are leading and overtaking them and pushing the gameplay to new heights. It's interesting to see what becomes of it.
I think that's something that, fortunately, a lot of the veterans do feel. The idea that, like, we want the game to reach new levels. We want the competitive scene within the game to reach new levels. Because, like, I mean, one, we're all just curious, and we want to try to become the best once everyone else is better as well. But then there's also there's so much pride every time you see someone in your alliance has done something exceptional, and you're like, oh wow, you have a bigger hammer than me right now. I love it. And then you also tell them to hit something with it, and you're like, yes.
But also, if they just come up with a trick or a strategy or a tactic that you didn't think of, they're like, "Yo, Branks, let me just blow your mind with this," and you're like, "Whoa!" I love it, and as you said, like it inspires to once again grow. Like it's easy to become complacent. You've got like number one on a couple of servers. what sometimes happens is you hit some guy once, you self-destruct, you're like, okay, I can no longer find fights. But then people overtake you and become better, and your name is no longer something that holds this like heft with it. Then it becomes interesting again because you've got something to fight for. You can prove yourself again and prove to yourself again that you're actually good at the game.
Mm-hmm. I made one of my favorite memes is a Gru meme about exactly this. The whole like you make a strategy, you get an edge, you win a server with it, and then everyone else starts using it and you get beaten.
Yeah.
But that's what we want, though. I want to see 10 million donut holes, and then I want to find the counter.
Right. You start doing their missions across server. Right?
Yeah.
Like, those bastards, we got the station near us to do our missions. Like, donut holes ruined. Like, blow it up before they start doing our missions. Like, doing all kind of dumb stuff.
The Great Donut War.
That's really right, because like and a meta always evolves, right? And that's why I love the last little frame you put in here of the group, be like enjoy more competitive games. And that's what we've always talked about too, with like everything we do, and the reason we share it with the rest of the community. And like, yeah, it might suck like very short term, but like long term, we're making a more competitive game, we're bringing out more. That's why we like doing the podcast too, right? The more we talk about the game, the more people hear about the game, the more everyone gets involved, and we can really get more competitive games.
I mean, you can compare it with other games. Something that comes to mind for me is League of Legends, right? I started playing League of Legends back in the beta of that game, and people used to do stuff that nobody nowadays would do, and the people that pushed the meta and found these tricks and strategies always did YouTube videos and guides and shared them with other people, and the community as a whole became more knowledgeable and skilled. And nowadays, what is the norm used to be like the cutting edge back then. So the community, as you share that stuff with people, the community pushes each other to higher levels, and it just discovers more stuff. The more people you inspire to play on the what could be considered cutting edge, the more interesting stuff they'll discover and then share back to you.
Yeah.
So it's just also keeping that knowledge to yourself, it doesn't do anything, in my opinion.
Yeah. And a few other sort of bonuses of it. I mean, first off, there's just the fact that, like, the thing I enjoy in Starborne more than anything else is that it's so new. There's so many new things to discover that, like, I can do this. I can be the person who invented the donut hole. Also, even if people take my strategies and end up beating me with them, the mark I can leave, which I'll be so happy if people remember me for it, is the like, oh yeah, Roedhip, he came up with some of those early strategies people were using. That would be great.
Sometimes the mark that you leave is that a mechanic gets nerfed. I remember back in Alpha 9, I was talking to Zerg, also known as Magnet now, about like stacking really high probe duration to just unveiling the entirety of enemy sectors. And so you'd send like an entire armada of scouts. Like, just plop down a probe, lasts a month. Great. You just do it once, you're done. And now you can only send one scout fleet on a probe run. You can no longer send an armada. It's like, all right, they didn't like the really long-lasting probes, I guess.
Yeah.
Or the stealth bombing runs, or stealth TCing stations from under people's asses. Like, they didn't like that, but somebody had to develop that strategy and use it to great effect to where people complained about it, cried about it, and then it got nerfed. And that might be good for the longevity of the game, like long-term health of the game. It wasn't needed that it got discovered and nerfed, but somebody had to abuse it, so it became like public knowledge that this is the thing.
Well, and the coolest thing, even like to go even further with it, is like when we were watching Snigum's stream the other day on the 4-hour version. He mentioned something or along the lines of, yeah, I can't wait for the player party when I have to sit down I have to face Brinks and Feka about Willie. And whatever, because he nerfed it so hard. He nerfed it. It's so unnecessary, but it's so funny. And I told him, like, that's Brinks' hill to die on, but like I'll be there with you.
Yeah, I still have a bone to pick with him about that.
Was it that Willie used to give time reduction as well? I don't quite remember.
No, back in Alpha 8, you were able to use him until like level 3 of a station.
Oh, Damn.
Then Alpha 9 is
I'd
like level
forgotten
2 of
that.
a station, and then at some point I was talking about like how good Willy is, and like I just stopped leveling my stations and just build buildings as much as I can to make use of that bonus. And just a few
Well, it
days
wasn't
after
just
that, he
that.
nerfed him down to just level 1 of
Well,
a station.
your original complaint was, why isn't Big Bill better if Willy is this good?
The reason I stick with Willy is because Bill is, in my opinion, not an upgrade. Right? He's not strong enough in comparison.
Willy Gamish is still good enough that I will, from time to time, not always, but from time to time, get a station to 110 influence while being level 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, that was just my favorite thing. You have to be careful what you wish for. You wrote like this whole document about why Bill needs a needs a buff and blah blah blah. Next patch, Willy nerfed. He's too strong.
That was not what I was trying to get at. Why?
Yeah. I have so much respect for the devs of this game, and I am glad they keep changing it and improving it. But like, honestly, sometimes just listening to Snuggums talk about game design terrifies me, because I'm sitting here imagining everything is concrete, because I can't change mechanics, figuring out plans here and there, and then Snuggums just casually says, "Oh, maybe for Dead Zone, scouts won't have sabotage anymore," and like I explode.
How dare you?
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Dead Zone. Thanks for the segue. I look forward to getting my hands on that. Like it's still Starborne. A lot of the stuff I know or we know about Starborne still holds, right? But it's vastly different. There's so many new mechanics that have just ripped out of the game. We usually say like between the alphas you had to relearn the game, then you went into tournament, had to relearn the game. Now we went into beta, had to relearn the game, and then you're like, oh, let's play Starborne Dead Zone. It's like you have to relearn the game, but don't forget about the old one because that's still there.
Yeah. I think honestly the differences between Dead Zone and current Starborne, like they're bigger than any of the other differences we've seen so far. I'm so hyped.
Yes. I read all the info about the different factions that you can play there, and it's like, oh, they're all so good. Which one would you pick? And then you think about like, okay, you listen to all the other people, and they're like, oh, they all seem to be hyped about that faction. So which one is the counter to that? And you start doing mind games already.
Oh, I mean, honestly, everything that's stressful about Starborne, except setting alarms for the middle of the night, is going to be stressful about Dead Zone, but compressed into 4 hours with all the politics going on, all of the figuring out if you can counter someone. But rather than, oh no, they countered me, I'll have to rebuild for the next 2 weeks, it's, oh no, they countered me, everything's falling apart.
But losing in that game mode won't feel as bad as losing big in the 10-week game mode, because it's over after 4 hours, right? Which is why I think it's probably gonna be a very successful game mode. It's not as big of a time investment. It's over quicker, and if you lose, you only lost 4 hours, which still is a long time for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think there's actually quite a few people I know who enjoy Starborne but aren't able to or don't want to go to the sort of like the same level of commitment that the people who are leading alliances do. The sort of like, I'm going to be here and very active for 8 weeks straight, and I think that means it has a massive amount of potential.
Yeah, because if you play for 8 weeks or 10, right, it's at one point it was 12, right? You kind of have to develop a habit of playing this game. But 4 hours, a lot more people are able to find like a 4-hour window to sit down and play one of the Dead Zone servers.
Yeah, it's one terrifying, stressful sitting.
Yes, and I'll pull my hairs out. Like the few I've got left, they're probably gonna be gone after like 2 matches or something.
Yeah. And we're hearing that the plan for the first player playtest is going to be 125 players, most of them like mentors, super testers, content creators, but possibly, if there's enough space, opening it up to anyone who's interested, who wants to try it out, and having a sort of like 125, 5 Dead Zone maps, top 5 from each of them into 25, competing there.
Yeah.
And that in particular has got me very hyped. That's like, I want to be the first person to win Dead Zone, and also, like, I want to stream it. A lot of people have been saying, yeah, I've never streamed before, but I think I want to stream Dead Zone if I'm able to play it.
Yeah,
I could see like recording a run and then doing like compressing it into like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and doing like a sort of talk over what some of the pivotal moments were and the thought process behind the decision making. But streaming that 4 hours, that's Snipe City. You're gonna get stream sniped.
We bomb the stream snipers.
Well, one thing Strigum said that was pretty cool. He was like, "Yeah, if enough of you guys stream this or put out content about it, it'd be really cool to get like one of the games, especially if it was like the finals of like whatever they're talking about, but stitch in all the different people at the same time, like reacting to certain things, right? Like me setting an attack over here at Roedhip. Roedhip's also streaming, and then getting Roedhip's reaction to seeing my attack come in and how he responds, and then flip back to me being like, "Oh, well, this is happening," and I was like, "Oh man, that would be super cool." And he was like, "Yeah, if you guys do it, like I might stitch that together if I can find the free time."
Yeah, on one screen you see one guy like manically cackling, like ha ha ha, and another screen
yeah,
like, no.
Yeah, and I also wanted, before I forget, I want to do a quick shout out. Biggles actually did a whole podcast with Snoogums directly going over a lot of the stuff, and that's where we heard all that. So definitely check that out too. But that's where we get a lot of the excitement from it. Snoogums has been live streaming it and doing that, and then also for anyone that wants to Twitch stream it or that kind of stuff, I've been learning all this stuff, and I'm definitely more than happy to like reach out and help you guys set this kind of stuff up. Because I would love to see more people streaming it on, especially Dead Zone. Like, especially if I can't catch a 4-hour match, right? Because it's one thing, like, if I couldn't play a server, like a Starborne server, it's a big thing. But, like, because I could get on and, just play. If a 4-hour server is coming up where I just can't be on, or say I only have 2 hours, right? I would love to just sit on stream and just watch someone play Dead Zone. That's like, as an audience member, I'm really excited to see other people also streaming it, so I have something to do in my off time. Maybe develop strategies from that as well, right?
Yeah,
so
streaming that or recording that and then uploading it. It's good. I could see that as a learning format, because as you're doing the decisions, you can talk about them, and because it's all condensed into 4 hours, I think you'd be there talking the entirety of the 4 hours, and even then missing stuff you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm going to stream it live, maybe like a few minute delay, and I am going to bomb anyone that I discover is sniping me. And my hope is that enough people will stream that like it's a majority of people streaming, and that means we all hate the stream snipers.
Maybe it says some sort of like honor agreement.
Yeah.
I don't stream snipe you if you don't stream snipe me.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna stream snipe. I'd like ban people from my chat if they try to stream snipe for me.
How would you discover a stream sniper?
If to discover someone stream sniping me, I'd probably have to send like a hitman round to the house of everyone who's playing in the same server as me just to check.
Get a peek in through the window.
Yeah.
He's got your stream open on the second monitor. Bomb it.
Yeah, well, I'd be interested to see if they actually like mess up themselves. Right? If you're sitting there trying to stream something, because like what all it's like, it's not like I don't know, or like a game I would watch a lot that you get stream sniped on is like Rust, right? Where you're running around, someone finds out where you are, you leave the house, and they stream snipe because they know you've left the house and they'll kill you outside. Like I don't know particularly what you would do on Starborne to stream snipe me that I'm not already sabotaging myself by doing. Right? I'm giving you free spy reports basically, but like I'm interested to see what comes up with it, because I'm not too worried about because of that, right? Like I don't know, you'll snipe my indies coming back, but more than likely you have pros, right? So it might make it a little bit easier, but I don't know if it's going to be devastating if a bunch of people try to stream.
Yeah, that's another thing that makes me more comfortable with it. Like, people will see my build maybe half an hour earlier than they would if they were just playing their own game. Right. And that's not a massive disadvantage for me.
Right, or if they're so focused on you, they end up losing the game because there's 23 other players there, right? And they don't care at all about you.
Yeah, or you as the stream sniper, you too focused to listen to Roedhip's train of thought and like decision making that you don't spend enough time on your own build and your own action.
Right.
That one person who throws the game by trying to watch 15 streams and forgets to play the game.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a guy on the Twitch right now, LTP. He's like, it's not bombing them, it's burying them in radiation. He's like, someone on stream is burying them in differentiation. Is like that's probably the one thing I'm worried about.
I really have started considering playing Nightcore after watching Snoogums' stream, where he just got like one person who wasn't even that big.
Turkey Baser or something like that was his name.
Was irradiating 3 other players with the special Nightcore ability. And yeah, with how the design has been set up so far, the 4 new factions and all their bonuses, I look at it and one of the things that makes me most hyped for this is I can't tell what's best.
They're all OP, dude. When I'm looking at them, I'm like, well, that's OP. I'm like, oh, let me look at the next one. Holy crap, well, that's OP. I'm like, but I guess if they're all super strong, like it equals out. But I'm just so interested, man. It's hard. I can't get my hands on it, right? We're so used to theorizing everything and doing these like long drawn out things with Starborne, but like we get to do it, you know? So it's so tough.
If someone uses a spreadsheet in Dead Zone, I will give them a round of applause.
I really like the artwork and the time developing like a little bit of background story they've put into like these 4 new factions, and it geeks me out that Gatos Fritos is punk rock.
Yeah,
yes.
I just want to play them just because of that.
With the cow, dude.
Massive props to the art team, and if anyone who's listening wants to see all this stuff in the Dead Zone pick dump on the Discord, they've got all of the faction pictures, and apparently there may be extra things added. They want Gatos Fritos to be more chaotic. Like, there's already a curb stomp going on.
I'm showing it here now on Twitch too. If anyone's watching that, it's hilarious, dude. Like this cow just geeks me. I wanted to say eat more nachos. I posted a picture of him doing that, like the like that. I'm like, oh man, we're like having it like spray painted on him or something. Like they were joking about that too on stream. But these look so good, dude. They look so good.
All right. Thank you for being with us, Roedhip. You shared a lot of interesting stuff with us, and it's like it just goes to show, like, sitting down with people after the fact and talking about how servers went, different servers, or just opposing sides. It's always a wonderful experience. Thank you for reminiscing with us, and thank you for sharing with us the story of the big, glorious donut.
The donut is wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, don't forget to ping Nihilus. He loves you all.
He's our Lord and Savior, Nihilus. Well, let's see if I've actually got it. I still got a copy, so I'll do the outro music here. Seriously, thanks so much, Roedhip. Thanks so much for everyone listening, both live here in the Discord and on Twitch. Frank should have it up on YouTube as soon as you can. So, exciting times for living in, man. What a game.
See you all.
See ya.
Bye, guys.